Right, that's enough. For over 9 months now, I've been charging my EV with just a 3-pin plug. It's slow, inefficient, and I've honestly just had enough, because mostly a 3-pin plug is just unsafe. I've had so many comments on here from people saying that it's really not a suitable way to charge your electric car. So let's change it. So I looked into everything you need to know before you get a home EV charger installed. And today I'm going to walk you through it properly. And I'm getting my first home EV charger fitted thanks to Heatable, who are partnering with me on this. I'm going to show you why it's more efficient, why it's safer, what actually needs to be done before installing, whether your home is even compatible, and how to choose the right EV charger. And I'll run you through exactly what happens on install day and what the electrician is doing and why it matters. So by the end of this, you'll know exactly how it works and you'll be set up for everything you need to know about getting your first home EV charger installed. Now, before I get into the install, let's talk about the 3-pin plug, because this is how a lot of people start, including me. Now, when I first got my EV, I was just using this and this, which means that it was very slow and it was very unsafe. But ultimately it did work. I could plug in and charge overnight. I could set the timer for the charging inside the car so it would charge during off-peak electricity hours, and it got me ticking over for a few months at least. But over time you start to see its limitations. Because you're charging at around 2.3 kilowatts, which is obviously really slow, you're only putting in about 8 to 10 miles per hour. And obviously with my Nissan Leaf it's okay because it's got a 24 kilowatt hour battery, but any bigger batteries, then you're going to be waiting a long time. Now the alternative is public charging, which is also something I've done a lot of. And public charging is great in terms of speed, but it's not always ideal because you have to drive to a charger, hope it's available, wait there while it charges, and often pay so much more per kilowatt hour, as much as 10 times more. Whereas home charging is completely different. I can just plug in like this when I get home, go inside, sleep, and when I wake up in the morning and go to drive somewhere, the car is fully charged. Now let's talk about safety, because this is where most of my comments about the dangers of a 3-pin plug were coming from. And this is where people get confused, because technically it is possible to charge with a 3-pin plug. And a 3-pin plug is safe enough to do so, otherwise it wouldn't exist. But it's not designed for continuous high load for hours and hours every single night. But think about what's actually happening here. You're pulling about 10 amps, or even more in some cases, from the plug every single time you charge your electric car. And for a long period of time, say 8, 10, 12 hours overnight, for standard UK sockets, that's really not very safe. Especially if the socket is old and the wiring in the house is older, and especially not if you're using an extension cord, especially if it's just a normal everyday household one. And extension cords can introduce resistance, which means that it will get heated up over time and are not rated for continuous use for 8, 10, 12 amps. So over time that can lead to heat buildup, wear on the sockets, and eventually possibly even complete failure of your electrical circuits. So of course, I'm not saying that a 3-pin plug will burn your house down, but it is obviously not what your electrical system was designed for long term, whereas an EV home wallbox charger was designed specifically for this. A proper EV charger has its own dedicated circuit. It's connected to your own consumer unit and it has built-in protection systems, and of course is installed by a qualified electrician. That means it can handle continuous load safely. It can monitor the temperature at all times, and it can cut the power if things become unsafe. And of course, importantly, it's compliant with regulations, which is something that I didn't really think about when I first used a 3-pin plug. Now, something doesn't get talked about enough, and is the name of my channel, and it's efficiency, because charging isn't 100% efficient. So energy is always lost, and usually it's heat. And with slower charging, like a 3-pin plug where it's less controllable, slightly more energy is lost. Whereas a proper EV charger, say 7 kilowatts, is designed to optimize that whole process. So in theory, you're actually getting more energy from what you paid for because there are fewer losses. Now let's talk about speed properly, because that's where things really change. And a 3-pin plug pulls just 2.3 kilowatt hours from the wall maximum. And a 7 kilowatt charger is obviously 3 times quicker than that. Now, can you get a home charger installed? Before you think about getting one installed, you first need to find out if your home is suitable for one. So follow this guide. Number 1 is parking. So do you have an off-street parking spot where you can actually run the cable and charge your car? Because whilst other schemes are available for on-street parking, it does become a little bit more difficult. Next is distance of the consumer unit, because the longer the distance is between your consumer unit and your EV charger, then the more cable is required and therefore the increase of cost. Then of course is the consumer unit condition itself. Now your fuse box needs to be up to standards, and if it's an older unit then additional modifications might need to be required, or another additional box might need to be installed as well. Then there's cable routing, which in my case goes all the way around here in my porch to the garage and into the charger itself. For yours, you have to think about how does it get from the consumer unit to the charger. So does it go through lots of walls? Does it need to go around the house, underground even, or along the driveway? How far away is the consumer unit to your allocated place for your charger? Because that affects both the cost and the install complexity. Next is Wi-Fi signal, and most chargers, if not all of them, are smart chargers, which means that they need an internet connection to work. You need to be able to have a Wi-Fi signal that's strong enough so that your charger can actually receive it. Or you can have a physical Ethernet cable plugged into it where it runs all the way from your router to your charger in cases where your Wi-Fi signal does not reach. Next is tariff compatibility, which is a big one, because of course the real savings for electric car charging and every EV driver out there is when you can charge your car overnight at cheaper rates. And I'm currently on E.ON Next Drive, which I signed up for last July. And whilst the deal is not quite available at the same price as mine, you can still get a very good rate for overnight charging. So click my link in the description to check out E.ON Next Drive, or do your own research and work out what's cheapest in your area. And best of all, from the 1st of April 2026, the government has reduced the energy price cap, so you could get a little bit more savings on your bills. Now, of course, it's important to understand why install costs vary as well, because people often ask, well, how much does it cost to get an EV charger installed? In fact, my neighbours did a few weeks ago. And the answer, of course, it obviously always depends. Luckily, Heatable have made it very easy for you guys, so just check out their website, pop in a few details, and you get an instant quote too. And their installers will take care of everything for you on the day, just like they did for me. And I've managed to get an exclusive discount code for you guys, so if you're my audience watching this now, you can get £50 off your install using code ALEX50 at checkout. So check out Heatable in the link in the description below and sign up and get your own install quote today. Now the good news here is you don't actually specifically need planning permission to install a home EV charger, but you do need to notify the electricity network, and this is handled during the install process. But don't worry, I'll get onto this later. Now let's talk about the charger itself and choosing the right one, because people can overcomplicate things. There is of course single phase versus 3-phase electricity, and most UK homes are single phase, which means you'll get 7.4 kilowatts for charging speeds. 3-phase is a different type of electricity, and it's obviously faster, but it's very rare in residential homes, and you can, if you really want to, pay to upgrade your house to 3-phase in some cases. Then of course there's tethered versus untethered chargers. So first of all, you've got tethered, which has the cable included, and you've got untethered, which is where you provide and supply your own cable to plug in. And for me, tethered just makes sense because it's easier for me just to grab the cable from the wall, plug it in and start charging overnight when it's cheaper. And of course, there's another thing which is important to consider, and that is smart features, because this is where charging apps and chargers vary massively, and they've improved a lot in recent years. You can schedule charging, you can track energy use, you can see how much you've paid for each charging session too, all on your phone, all through the app. And of course, this is what allows you to configure everything to take advantage of cheaper electricity. So by the way, also, if you're enjoying this video so far, please hit the subscribe button. It costs you nothing, and we're on our way to 20,000 subscribers. I wouldn't want you to miss out on future videos, so hit subscribe and I'll get to my next point. Have you hit subscribe? Okay, let's get to the next big part, which is the install day. So before anything gets installed to your house, there's a full assessment that needs to be done. And through my process, I had a pre-qualifying call with the installer, Matt, who I took around and videoed the house and the consumer unit and the fuse box and all these kinds of things, and the cable routes and the proposed idea of the place of the charger. And he assessed everything on the call to see if it was suitable. Because of course the installer who is qualified needs to make sure that everything is safe and compliant. For my setup, it was pretty straightforward because the consumer unit is just inside my front door and the garage is out the back, where next to it I'm going to place my EV charger. There's maybe 7 to 8 meters distance between the consumer unit and the charger, and in theory there's just one, maximum 2 walls to get to the back of the wall to get the install of the charger on, and then there's just one more wall you have to drill through to put the cable through and make sure it's all put on the wall properly. So maximum of 3 walls here, but we'll get more onto that later. Now, remember earlier when I said you don't need specific planning permission? Instead, that's because there's a notification process. In my case, the installer applied through the ENA connected portal, and I got an email coming through saying that's been applied for me.
So the DNO who supply electricity to everybody's house.
Right.
You need to let them know when you're putting an EV charger in, and your installer should do it.
Yeah.
Reason being is they want to know what load's on the grid.
Yeah.
Obviously, a car charger is 7 kilowatts of power for 6, 7, 8 hours every single night. So they want to know how many chargers are on the grid in a specific area, if the network can handle it, if you've got any issues with your supply coming in. So if you're quite a fairly new build here, so your main fuse and everything should be okay. But on an older property, you'll have loop supply, which is where the electricity goes into one house and loops onto the next.
Okay.
Which is a no-no, because again, if you've got a lot of power going on one line, it's not good. And a lot of older houses have only got 60 amp main fuses. So again, you've got 32 amps of power on the EV charger.
Yeah.
If you've got a heat pump, if you've got hot tub, you know, that kind of stuff, it's getting up quite quickly. So this is why we have to notify the DNO on every single EV charger install. And then the only other bits of paper you'll get is an electrical installation certificate and a Part P builder control notification because you've had a new circuit or a new fuse board put in, which is standard on all electrical work.
So that means it's all approved and logged to the grid, telling the grid that you're going to get a home charger installed and obviously expected to have more spikes in your electricity. So now let's talk about the most important part, which is what happens on the day of the install. And I'm going to run you through the entire process. So on install day, Matt arrived at around 8:45 a.m. We finalized the position of the charger and he got started. So there was drilling through the wall, running the cable in the garage with my existing cable gully that I already had installed when I first had my heat pump installed. The new circuit was installed. New fuse box and consumer unit next to my main one was installed, and a new protection system was installed as well because of course the EV charger is an entirely separate circuit that needs to be properly managed and compliant and safe. Then the charger was mounted and located in the right place. Then the cable hook was installed and everything was wired in, and then it was time for testing. Oh, there we go, 6.5. There we go, brilliant. So, which charger do they actually go for? Eager eyes might already see which one I've chosen. So, as you can see, I went with the Anderson Quartz, which is coming in this beautiful design, and it's metal, the casing. It's got this really cool hook that you can just loop around the cable. In fact, I'll do it now and I'll show you. So this tethered cable is 5.5 meters long, and it goes around like this. And you can just easily loop it back on itself. Make it look neat, pop it there like that, and you've got it installed, ready to go when you want to plug in. Best thing about this Anderson charger is also the warranty, because it comes with a massive 7-year warranty as well. So let's have a look at the app where I'm showing you now my last charging session and how many kilowatt hours my little Leaf battery topped up by, from around 30 to 100%. And for that, it cost less than £1. It took 3 hours and 1 minute, and it's already really easy to see on the charging app as well. So if I do for 1 month of March so far, we've taken 99 kilowatt hours from the grid, and it cost £11.11, 11.11. Wow. And it only took 20 hours over the entire month and the 3 weeks that are into March now. And yeah, I've just spent £11 on fuel basically, which works out to around 2 or 3 pence per mile to run my electric car. You can look at the tariff now. So you can edit the schedule of your tariff. You can have it all day, or you can have specifically between the hours of 0, which is midnight, to 7 a.m. So with my Eon Next Drive tariff, those are my cheaper periods of time where it's cheaper. And then you can also plug in your own tariff using this. And you can choose the Eon Next Drive fixed peak rates and off-peak rates. And yeah, plug in your numbers, and then it works out exactly how much it's charged and how much each charging session will cost. So it's faster, safer, and just easier to just set up your app to charge during your overnight tariff at cheaper rates, all through the Anderson app. So I wake up every morning after just charging for 3 or 4 hours, and the car is fully charged, ready to go. So if you're thinking about getting one installed, please head to the link in the description and use my code ALEX50 for £50 off your install through Heatable. Thanks so much for Heatable for partnering with me on this install, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Peace out.